Great. Hi. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Connecticut Green Building Council Sustainability Career Showcase, Public and Policy Panel. This panel will really be focusing more on public services, so energy efficiency, and advocacy. And my name is Joya Cannell. I am Vice Chair of the Connecticut Green Building Council and one of your moderators today. And as people trickle in, my partner Kai and I will get this panel kicked off, but we would love to hear from you in the chat. Feel free to pop in your name, your organization, your title, and what you're looking to learn from this event. And we're welcoming you to what we're really calling a labor of love. This series was inspired by the desire to more directly fulfill our mission as an organization to accelerate the health and sustainability of the built environment in our state by supporting its future workforce. Demystifying career paths and growing professional networks is key to this, and we have a wonderful set of mentors keen to support students and emerging professionals here with us today. And I would also like to say a few more quick words to introduce us as CTGBC. We are a membership group of architects, policy experts, consultants, contractors, builders, educators, and more committed to transforming the way our towns and cities are designed, constructed, and operated through education and advocacy and community development in the sustainable building trades. Our students and emerging professionals are really key to achieving these outcomes and freshly educated in the best practices. So we want to make sure that you all are encouraged and ready to pave the way for the next generation's commitment to innovation and our collective future. We recognize that making inroads directly with industry is so important to this, which is why we are all here today. And a little bit more on quick housekeeping. We are recording this panel and we'll make it available on our website. In terms of your participation, we invite you to use the chat to ask questions or make comments as you think of them. We will also have time for Q&A at the end of the moderated session, so feel free to raise your hand we can call on you to unmute yourself or again, use that chat box. If you're having any tech issues, please be sure to send a chat to Kai or myself. We will be happy to help you. And if you haven't already, be sure to sign up for membership. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or sign up for our newsletter to get notifications of our events and get plugged into what's happening in our state and our region. We can put the links to those web pages in the chat in a bit. And with that membership and those newsletter connections, we'll be able to keep you posted as to our future career showcases and other events. Remember to sign up and follow us on social media, as we will be sharing information about our live summit culmination on May 10th in New Haven, where a number of our panelists will be back to network for a more in-depth discussion in person. And registration for that event will be coming soon. And as always, keep an eye to our calendar, not only for other events, but for regular committee and community meetings. At our first showcase, a number of folks said that they were interested in getting more involved, and this really is the way to do it, is by keeping tabs on our calendar. And I believe this is our last intro slide. Is a big thank you to our generous sponsors that have made all of these sessions possible. Assa Abloy has been leading the way for building supply companies and sustainability for a long time. Their commitment to helping drive the industry forward and tackling and reducing greenhouse gas contributions. They even have an educational arm for employees and clients in industry, has really blazed a trail in the state. And Mitsubishi Electric is critical to much of our work as building professionals. Their electric HVAC solutions are key to delivering healthy and climate-friendly low emissions conditioning, and have been significant players in really ensuring that there's a just transition in our state and really making that a reality. So with that, we're fortunate to be introducing a number of subject matter experts to you all shortly. First, I'll introduce myself and Kai, my co-moderator. Like I said at the top of the call, I'm Joya Montana Cannell. I am Vice Chair of CTGBC and Build Ecology Consultant at WSP, a global design, engineering, and consulting firm. I am a Connecticut native and really love my state and longtime New Haven community. And I'm very happy to continue to grow that network onward and outward with you all here. And with that, hi, happy to pass the mic to you. Take it away.
All right, thanks, Joya. Thanks for everyone for being here today. It's a really exciting series that CTGBC is hosting this year. Again, my name is Kai. I chair the CTGBC. I also work at the employee-owned firm Stephen Winter Associates, where I'm a senior sustainability consultant. I specialize in green programs, among other things, including life cycle assessment analysis. I live in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I've been here about a little over 10 years, and I'm really excited to be here with you, both for our panel to hear about their professional journey, how they got to where they are today, and for them to share some insights on the careers of today and tomorrow. Next slide. So with that, we're fortunate to have these subject matter experts here today to share us with what they know. So we'll be hearing from them in first name alphabetical order. They'll be telling us a little bit more about themselves in their 5-minute intro, which will be followed by moderated questions and discussion after that. So today we're joined by Brandon Mark, and we'll pass it over to Brandon Mark.
Thanks, Kai, and thanks, Joya. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Brandon. I'm an energy engineer at Avangrid, also known as United Illuminating Southern Connecticut Gas, or Connecticut Natural Gas. We're a network of utility companies all throughout Connecticut, as well as New York, Massachusetts, and Maine. My work focuses on conservation and load management. So I'm all about really incentivizing projects to kind of go above and beyond energy code in the new construction commercial space. Could get a little bit more to the details later. So this kind of subtitle here, Joy had asked us to put in like a quote or some sort of description that kind of encapsulates all the work that the panelists do. I wasn't really too sure what to put here. So I actually just kind of put this like, not really like a saying, but just like these things that I just try to live by and carry throughout my personal and professional life. And it's really just, you know, try to leave things better than how you found them and try to learn as much along the way. When it comes to like sustainability and just, you know, having an impact, that's kind of been like a guiding principle of mine is, you know, if I'm going to be involved in something, show up somewhere, I want to make an impact that's positive and hopefully, you know, leave the situation or in a better kind of condition than when I found it or something similar to that effect. And then also just learning. I feel like I genuinely miss grad school a whole bunch. I've noticed like school's just been my life for like the past 20 so odd years. And so this is Avangrid is actually my first like full-time job after school. But with regard to learning, I just, you know, I think it's never a bad thing to just continue to learn things, and just that's what I kind of find fulfilling in life. That was a little bit of a ramble, but we'll carry on. So I started my education at a high school called S.S. Seward Institute in a very, very small New York town called Florida, New York. Generally, when I'm telling people where I'm from, I just say I'm from like Hudson Valley or something because it's a bit easier. If I tell them I'm from Orange County, New York, which is the county in which Florida resides, it's even more confusing. So people think I'm either from Florida or California. This was a very, very small school. I graduated with about 80 kids in my class. I never really knew what I wanted to do in terms of college. I just knew I wanted to do something in the sciences. Like I said, I really enjoy learning, and I really picked the most broad kind of science background there is that gets me as much detail as I want. And so I studied applied physics at SUNY Geneseo. It's one of the state schools in the New York state school system. We had a really great physics program over there. Spent 4 years learning physics. I did a lot of research with regard to renewable energy and sustainable practices. And that's really what kind of started guiding me towards this direction of sustainable careers. So next I went to Rochester Institute of Technology, just about an hour north of Geneseo in Western New York. And I pursued my Master's of Science in Sustainable Engineering. And then at pretty much the very beginning of the pandemic, I moved to New Haven, Connecticut, and I started working at Avangrid Inc., which is based in Orange, Connecticut. And I started as an energy engineer and kind of worked my way up to senior level energy engineer as of recently. I think that's like all I wanted to really say here. So thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks so much, Brendan. Really interesting to see how people find their way, and it's often not a linear pathway. So
yeah, not at all.
Very good. All right. We introduce Brenda Watson with Operation Fuel. You're up next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Kai, and thanks, Joy, for planning this panel. I didn't follow directions, but I thought it would be great to kind of show the evolution of Operation Fuel, because I think it's really significant, because it's a part of my journey and my career. So Operation Fuel provides emergency energy assistance to Connecticut residents struggling to pay energy bills and advocates for affordable energy. And in terms of a quote, I'm a huge fan of the Star Wars universe and love the Clone Wars. And one quote that really stuck out to me in that series was struggles often begin and end with the truth. And that sums up a lot of the work that I've done over my career, which started about 25 years ago. I grew up in Hartford, went to an HBCU in South Florida, got my master's in public policy, got my undergrad degree in political science and my master's degree in public policy studies at Trinity College in Hartford, and have had a career in social work, social services. I also worked for municipal government for the town of Plainville, for the town manager there, and found myself in transportation planning at the Capital Region Council of Governments, and then landed at Operation Fuel in 2010. And back then, our focus was providing direct bill payment assistance for those who were struggling with the cost of energy. And when I was promoted to executive director, I found that there was a lot more that we should be doing as an organization, especially as I began to see around 2006, 2007, the movement around green energy. Back then it was called Going Green. And my desire to want to incorporate Black and Brown communities in that transition of going green, because we had already been green for the most part. People who are living with fewer resources are very often green already. You know, we're not relying on motor vehicles to get to work or travel long distances via airplane. Our home products are very often recycled to serve a second, third, or fourth purpose. So our carbon footprints are much smaller than, you know, folks who have more resources. So that, let me just kind of talk about the organization a little bit. So we were established in 1977 by then Governor Ella Grasso, who responded to the oil embargo, which drove fuel prices up to the point of where people were really struggling. And we were in a period of stagflation at the time. And moving ahead of that, Diane Casey Lee was the very first executive director of Operation Fuel, and she established the Add a Dollar program, a very difficult process for her because she had to rely on outside partners to get that policy made into law. And I'm talking about the business industry. And there wasn't a lot of value placed on wanting to provide supports for people who are struggling with energy. And then after that, Pat Rice came along, and she was the executive director who first discovered that we should be studying energy gap, the affordability gap that is. So she enlisted the economist Roger Colton out of Boston to write the first energy affordability gap back in 2006, 2007. We studied that for 10 years. We took a break, and we are actually going to be releasing a new study in partnership with the Vermont Energy and Institute, also known as VEIC. And this study is focused on the energy burden as well as the water burden and transportation burden. You'll be hearing about that in a few weeks. Shortly after that, Governor Jody Rell saw the value in the work that we did and put us into the state's budget for the first time. We received a grant of $15 million. Much of it was allowed for us to be utilized for infrastructure, which really built us up as an organization. After that, we received into law a portion of the systems benefit charge, which is a surcharge on electric and gas bills. We receive an allocation of $2.1 million. Shortly after that, in 2020, we were identified by the state legislature to receive 10% of PURA fines. And a few years ago, 2022, actually last year, we received our very first federal grant from the Environmental Protection Agency to promote healthy communities in the New Haven area. And the work is just continuing to grow at the organization. With the Inflation Reduction Act, we're wanting to ensure that we connect those benefits to the people that we're serving. So I'm really excited about the evolution of the organization. I'm glad to be a part of it. And I'm really proud to do this work. It's not easy making, taking this organization that was focused on one primary piece of the energy burden and understanding that there's more to the burden that exists beyond the ability to pay energy bills. It's about energy efficiency. It's about products that will not only reduce burden, but improve the indoor air quality for folks. We're educating people on the importance of heat pumps and the benefits of heat pumps. But in addition to that, we're helping build and establish a new generation of environmental stewards who care about their community, but maybe did not connect what they care about most in their communities to climate change. So we're helping bridge that connection for people. And I'm really proud to be here tonight. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Brenda. Really, thanks for the history too. It is really interesting how things get to be the way they are. I learned from that. So appreciate you sharing that. All right, and up next we have our Melissa Copps. Over to you.
Thanks, and thank you, Brenda, too. That was a great little history lesson, and I'm so grateful for everything Operation Fuel does, and they're a great partner for the Connecticut Green Building Council. So I just want to shout out to the amazing work that you're doing, and I know that she's got to leave right at 5:30. So if people have questions for her, make sure to get them in. Okay, so my career trajectory. I just wanted to know, like, it's been a long process. I've been a lot of places. And I really do. I like what Brandon said. It's really a lifetime of learning and constant, education. And but basically, I'm a New Haven native, so I grew up in New Haven, but I wanted to get as far away as possible. And I spent a year abroad in Barcelona when I was in high school, and I went to Chicago for college. Spent a year in Bologna. So I really wanted to just go far and learn new things and I was very into languages and learning new cultures. And I didn't know I wanted to be an architect at all when I was a kid. You know, a lot of people say they knew like they were sketching, and I was really into languages and math. So I did art history in my undergrad, but I got the bug for architecture while I was an undergrad, went to the Rhode Island School of Design. And after I got out of the Rhode Island School of Design, where, you know, at that time there was really no sustainability curriculum, I kind of realized halfway through that, you know, I didn't want to be contributing or building these buildings that were so like kind of scars on the landscape. Like I had this kind of crisis of faith about whether I wanted to construct these buildings that were very high impact. And that's where I found the idea of sustainability and being able to design in a way that isn't so impactful. And I felt like maybe I could have a particular, you know, a particular impact for good. And maybe that's a good thing to be involved with. So after school, they developed the Sustainable Design Certificate through the Boston Architectural College. And I jumped on that when it first was introduced. And so I did that. I took classes with, you know, people that I've kept in touch with who are, you know, really big and well known in sustainability. And I did worked for a bunch of different firms, private practice, but I also found that, you know, the things I wanted to do, I wasn't able to do because in private practice, you're basically, you have a client and you have to, you know, work to the client's goals and priorities. So I always felt kind of missing that, being able to fulfill that need to really practice really deep sustainability in my work, which is why I joined this Connecticut Green Building Council and have been doing kind of more you know, education and awareness around sustainability from a policy perspective and from more of a professional development perspective. So now I transitioned because of my work with Connecticut Green Building Council. I transitioned to the public sector. I work for the city of New Haven as an architect. And I'm also the municipal representative to the Energy Efficiency Board in Connecticut. And because of the work that I've done and the way people have, you know, recognized me as a leader and somebody who really, really is passionate about this. You know, I'm teaching now at the Yale University at the Yale School of the Environment. A green buildings course. So, you know, following your passion and doing those things kind of, you know, makes people recognize you for having a certain skill and expertise. Next slide. So this is just kind of highlighting what I've done at the Connecticut Green Building Council as a volunteer. I founded and have organized a summit around green buildings, sustainable built environment, around different topic areas that are, you know, we started with health and well-being, then we did social justice, and then a couple of years ago we did climate action, and now we're planning hopefully in the fall to have one around energy affordability. So we really wanted to make this like a really interesting conference that exposed professionals to topic areas they might not have direct exposure to otherwise. And we've kind of been ahead of the ball on a lot of different topics. And because of that, you know, you're able to, when you start to organize these things, you're able to kind of interact with your heroes, right? You're, you know, reaching out to like that person who's done this really amazing thing, like, can you speak for me? And it just creates this networking ability that you wouldn't have otherwise. And then I'm also really interested in public policy and realizing that, you know, every individual project isn't going to move the ball. It's really when we get into, you know, public legislation and policy where we're actually going to move the industry forward. So that's kind of, I've used the Connecticut Green Building Council as a platform for really furthering this idea of moving the industry forward. And so we have this this policy platform called Build Better CT. And we're following a number of bills this year that are very exciting. And because of our, I think our presence in this legislative sphere, I think we have moved the needle quite a bit. And this year we've had a lot more building energy efficiency legislation proposed than we've ever seen before. So making a difference, and it's very exciting. So you can move on. And so I just want to show you like some of the things I do in my day job, which is really like being an architect for the city of New Haven. So I actually self-perform, do a lot of architectural work for public buildings, and really try to make sure that I'm infusing sustainability as much as possible in every single project. And it's pretty exciting. I actually probably am doing way more design as a public employee than I ever did in the private sector, which is very cool because you're constantly trying to like, you go to a community meeting with a rendering of what might happen, or like, how do you use this building in a way that is going to, meet the city's needs, and how we're gonna, anyway. So I wanted to kind of put forward that working for the public sector, it sounds like it could be not fun, or but it actually does give you a lot of ability to kind of make a difference, work for your community. And I really want to propose that people get more involved when they're municipal leaders, and potentially this working for a city or a government might, be a really good option to consider. So that's me.
Great, Melissa. Thanks for that. Really appreciate the history and your knowledge and expertise and everything you do. I'll go over to Nick Jones.
Sure. Thanks, Kai. And I gotta thank you and Joya. I mean, I know these sessions are not super easy to put together, and you guys have done a really great job at getting just great panelists over these last couple of weeks on a number of different topics. And so kudos to you guys, and keep doing great work. But just similar to Brenda, I think a lot of my inspiration and sort of I guess motivation comes from a number of different sources, but I think one of the major quotes that sort of summarizes my feelings towards this industry comes from Malcolm Gladwell. And when he said, a radical and transformative thought goes nowhere without the willingness to challenge convention. And I think, Melissa and Brenda and Brendan, they'll all tell you, being in this industry does require you to challenge convention pretty regularly. And so, a little bit about my background. I think one of the themes here is that, I'm a product of the public school system in Connecticut, and I'm really proud of that. I came into this industry in sort of a roundabout way. I have a pretty traditional blue collar background. I got my start in a mill room, cut and trim for a small lumber company back in high school, and I actually didn't plan on going to college. I was totally intent on working construction with my uncle and building houses in the valley. But I graduated in 2008, right at the height of the housing recession. And so I decided that I'd give the college thing a try. So I'm a first generation college student. I went to Eastern Connecticut State University with all intentions of being an English teacher. And then my freshman year of college, I took a colloquium class on sustainable energy studies, and I just fell in love. And so I changed majors probably a month into my freshman year to environmental earth science with a concentration in sustainable energy science. I graduated with my bachelor's while I was there at Eastern. I actually also started our environmental club, which was kind of awesome. It was a great experience. And, after I left Eastern, I think we grew that club to about 50 students. So it's something I'm really proud of. But in my time at Eastern, that's my junior year is when I started working for the Institute for Sustainable Energy under Bill Leahy and Lynn Stoddard. And that was a phenomenal experience for me. That sort of spearheaded my career and gave me some connections while I was in college that, brought me to where I am today. and which is working for Eversource. So I'm a senior energy efficiency consultant for Eversource. I've been doing that for about 10 years now. In my time at Eversource, I also decided to go back and get my master's. So I went back to Central Connecticut State University, got my master's of science in global sustainability. It only took me about 7 years to finish 30 credits, but I finally chipped away and did it as of 2 years ago, I think. But in any case, I think part of my inspiration and reason for doing what I do is because, like I mentioned, I come from a pretty distressed community, lower middle class background, first generation college student. And similar to what Melissa said about sort of buildings being scars on the urban landscape, the town that I come from, it's an old industrial community, and there are all sorts of different buildings that are just scattered across the landscape that are abandoned and run down and sort of symbols of better times. But those buildings, they all have a story to tell. They're all a part of the community, which I live in, and sort of emblematic of the individuals that live in that community. Again, very traditional blue collar folks. And so I was sort of motivated to make sure that the next generation of building, the next buildings that we do produce in these communities have a connection to the community that they're in, but they're also built more sustainably and more, I guess, with higher levels of efficiency than they have in the past. We're not building buildings through the Industrial Revolution anymore. We are, trying to build buildings that'll hold up to the test of time, while also sort of preserving resources for the next generation. And so that's sort of my spiel. And I can sort of, if I was to try to summarize what I do on a daily basis for Eversource, it's a little bit of everything, right? I mean, it's at a very high level. I think part of my role is to advocate and foster the transition to a more sustainable built environment. Lately, that's been sort of that's taken a couple different forms, mainly on the training, advocacy, and policy side, through things like beneficial electrification and really, workforce development and workforce training. But other than my work at Eversource, I also try to live what sort of live with those values. So I'm a licensed green realtor, and I serve on the board of directors for the Northeast HERS Alliance, and I'm formally on the board of directors for the Connecticut Green Building Council. So it's amazing anytime I get to be a part of these sessions. It's always just an absolute pleasure. So that's my spiel, and I'm looking forward to questions.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. All right. And those are our panelists. Thank you everyone for sharing. We'll begin the Q&A piece of the program. So you can either pop your questions into the chat, and we'll also have some moderated questions that we'll begin with. So either way, thanks for joining us, and we'll continue.
Yeah. Thank you all so much. Incredibly inspiring stories. I know I have some very direct, selfish questions for myself, but happy to start with some of the questions that we've been kicking around earlier, including, like, as we've seen today, there's a lot of diversity and opportunities in public good and public services and the private companies that bring about those public goods and services. What advice might you give someone who's just starting out in their career and trying to identify what path to go down?
Sure, I'll take that one on, Joya. So I mean, one of the things that certainly helped, that certainly helped my career path was, you know, like I said, I had the opportunity to work at the Institute for Sustainable Energy for 2 years. And what that did for me is it allowed me to develop connections to folks within the industry. So I got to sort of test different things and figure out what it was that I wanted to do. But I can tell you it's the best thing that you can do is be a part of these different diverse communities, whether it's Green Building Council, whether it's volunteering on your local planning and zoning board, because that's gonna open up some opportunities for you to develop connections and really sort of make your name in this industry.
Thank you, Nick. Always really great advice. Any other folks interested in taking a crack at that one? If not, we do have some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I could chime in a little bit. So for me, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life was actually really tricky, because I want to do everything, but there's not enough time to do that. So you really have to just pick something. With me, I kind of had the advantage of picking a very broad discipline to study in college. I also had a really wide variety of research opportunities, and that kind of helped me figure out what I'm actually truly interested in. Just you take all the resources your school has at your disposal, I think are really great. And even if you're out of school, taking any sort of classes that are offered, just to get a peek into the door of the field that you're considering or the role that you're considering. I had a lot of trial and error all throughout school. I actually started my research on a particle accelerator. I was just smashing, atoms together. And as interesting as it was, I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I didn't want to go pursue my doctorate or anything in physics. So I ended up switching completely and doing a research opportunity with solar thermal photovoltaic systems, a combined system. And from there, I just kind of got the bug and launched my way into this career path.
Thank you. And with that, I think Evan, first of all, thank you so much for your wonderful questions. I recognize your presence from our last event, and you always have really great questions. So thank you. I'll start with your first one, and if it's okay, I'd like to sort of frame it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So everyone has talked a little bit about being creative, pushing the boundaries of the field that you're entering into, and the importance of both the importance of doing that from a career perspective as well as a need perspective. The industry really needs innovation and ways to reframe. And so I've noticed that you put in a question of, are there any aspects of green building that the LEED rating system fails to address? And for those that are familiar with LEED, feel free to chime in with an answer to that question, or even I'd like to challenge the panelists to say how certain the given structures of the areas that you're working with might not necessarily be pushing the boundaries enough for climate change, human health, equity, and creative ways that you've been able to fill those gaps to overcome those limitations. And that I'll leave open to everybody. I see we have a couple of people unmuted. Go on.
If you don't call on Melissa to answer this, I think she's first.
I thought that she was the one that unmuted herself first.
No, I saw other people unmuted, so I was going to hold back. Well, I mean, I can tell you, Evan, I was drawn to the Living Building Challenge early on because I felt the things that LEED was lacking. So if you're not familiar with the Living Building Challenge, definitely look it up. It really is a holistic way to look at what makes a building successful. It includes things like beauty and biophilia, it really opened my eyes to all the things that go into making a building truly sustainable. So I mean, I constantly say, you know, carbon is one narrow, criteria for what makes a building green. If, you know, one of my favorite people who I know personally because of the fact that, you know, I organize conferences and I teach a course on green buildings is Bill Reed. And if you don't know him, look him up. He's awesome. You know, he has said before, you know, if we solve climate change tomorrow, you know, where will we have like won? Is everything done? And the answer obviously is no. There's so many other things that if you don't think about, you know, everything holistically, you might end up creating solutions that create other, other problems you didn't anticipate. So, you know, thinking about equity, thinking about health, thinking about toxicity, you know, there's so many different things. And so basically, if you look at Living Building Challenge, you know, you can see that LEED has been following in the footsteps of Living Building Challenge. So LEED has been evolving, they've been adding things, but really they're kind of following a model that already exists. So, I mean, I think everybody, LEED rating system is totally like, it's useful, it has its place, it's made the world a better place, but it isn't the end all be all. So like, I think we just need to, you know, recognize tools for what they are, that they help us move to a certain place, but nothing's going to be completely comprehensive, and that, you know, we always have to think about everything holistically.
Thank you. And being mindful of time, and in that spirit of innovation question, I would love to direct the next question to Brenda, who I know has a hard stop, where Brenda, the reframe of that prior question around creatively identifying, you know, not necessarily solving for or trying to heal the symptoms, right? But really addressing the source. I feel like that's really what Operation Fuel has been able to do under your purview. And I would love to hear more about any recommendations that you have around taking those creative turns. And we discussed earlier in our preparation for this call, you're very interested in discussing the importance of networking and means for learning and growth. So I'd love to hear you speak about the way to actualize really innovative changes in your work.
Well, that's a tough one. I think it starts with understanding that even though no is an answer, doesn't have to be the final answer. Having the tenacity to deal with different players who may not be the best actors, trying to find the balance between getting your goals met and understanding that other people's or other agencies or entities, their mission is different. You know, my mission is focused on serving a population who struggles with the cost of energy. And that is often in conflict with the mission of other people who, or other entities whose goals are to basically make money. And which I think is the reason why climate change is such a battle. Because what we're looking to do in terms of this energy transition is revolutionary. You know, we will never come into a time like this again in our lifetimes. Oh, maybe Brandon and and Nick's, but not mine for sure. Maybe you too, Joya. But it has not been an easy road to get some system planners and other leaders who have access to power to convince them of the fact that there are people who are deserving of products and programs that are going to reduce their energy burden, that are going to make their buildings, safer places to live, and more affordable places to live, because safe and healthy are not the same thing. And it's also about building the team around you too, to ensure that there are people who believe in the mission, believe in it so that they represent the mission well when, you know, they're going out into the world to try to share our message. And you know, it's been a challenge for sure, because I think prior to the pandemic, folks were just not believing that vulnerable populations, or the populations that we serve, who are also ratepayers, care about these things, in which they do. Like I said before, it's about making a connection for people. You know, you can ask someone what they care most about their communities, or what they believe in their communities tend to be the biggest challenges. And someone might say something like, you know, littering, which is, you know, basically a form of pollution when you think about it. And when you start to make that connection for folks to go, yeah, that's a big deal for me. I go outside my front door and I can't really breathe on certain days of the week because this trash plant is burning. Or people are tossing these little, you know, bottles out of their car windows. People who don't live in my community are driving through it and are littering and causing pollution in my community. And when you begin to do that, you begin to remember like why you do this work, because folks start to understand what it is that you're trying to do, and they want to be a part of it, or they want to be engaged in it. You know, that barrier of misinformation is then removed. So it means a lot to me to be able to do this work. So I hope I answered the question. I feel like I'm rambling.
Thank you. No, it's never rambling. And I think I triple barreled a question. So you did a great job at answering quite a hefty one. Thank you for that. And I really do appreciate, as you were speaking, I was just incredibly grateful for your voice being in the room, and the fact that everyone is here now speaking. It just goes to show the importance of having those opportunities for communication. I'm just very, very grateful that you all are here. Okay, let's see. I suppose we could hop back to some of our earlier questions. This one we'll make open to all again. In terms of where do folks see the field going in the future? The field that you're working in. So we've got some design, we've got energy efficiency from both a commercial and a residential perspective, and we have energy efficiency, affordability, advocacy. Are there particular methods or tools that you're discovering to be incredibly helpful for the work that you're doing? Particular groups that are becoming more engaged, or other areas or sources of innovation in your work that could be beneficial for our next generation to look to?
I'd like to take a stab at that one. I believe that we're going to continue to need what we have always had, which is, you know, manufacturing, people who are doing that work, more engineering, more innovation in tech, and even social workers, planning, healthcare workers, and even food vendors. And I know it sounds a little silly to think about, well, how is healthcare, social work, and food vendors related to this sector? When we have more people doing the work that we do, we're going to need more supports, because we are a whole people. You know, we get sick and we need to eat, and some of us need social services. So I think we're just going to need more of that. I'm married to an engineer, so I feel like I can talk bad about some engineers sometimes, but you know, I believe that it's why engineers often have to go back to the drawing board, because in the process of designing, when it's time to test in real life application, very often they don't think about the variable, which is the human element. And so we're going to need all of what we currently have. I also do believe that the difference between where we were in the past and now, and I attribute a lot of that to the pandemic, is this emphasis on inclusion and technology. Past policies that were rooted in racism, they worked to poorly educate, effectively incarcerate, and isolate generations of Black and brown and white poor communities. And now we need them. we have a workforce shortage, and without any trained or skilled workforce, how are we even going to ramp up offshore wind as an industry if we don't have the workers here who are trained to do that? We're very likely going to have to rely on folks overseas to come over and train and develop that workforce here. So unfortunately, I believe that our past policies, some believe that, racism and classism are what's best for the country. And I think that some folks are seeing that that's not the case. And, I'd like to ask folks who still believe that, how do you think it's going? You can't fill positions because we don't have skilled workers. I very often go to different websites to see what jobs are available. And it's amazing to me that some organizations have, sometimes up to 50 open positions, given the current situation that we're in, as people are trying to catch up to, losses of income during the pandemic. And, you've got these places with, 11 to 50 positions open. That's quite astonishing. So I'll stop talking there.
That was an unbelievable response, Brenda. I don't have too much to add to it, because I think it covered so many bases. And I think just to sort of layer onto that, one of the you mentioned it too. I think one of the really important things, especially with the current labor shortage, is I think we really need to reframe the narrative around skilled labor and sort of advocate for those jobs that are for in trade positions. And really, so we have some of the best tech schools in the country. I believe that firmly. And so I can say personally, when I was in high school, it was from the time you were a freshman in high school, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a degree, you're going to work, right? And I think it's so important to introduce kids to a range of different opportunities, and really sort of, like I said, reframe the narrative around quality, good paying trade positions. It's vitally important, and like you mentioned, it's going to be even more critical to help fill that labor gap.
Yeah, I think the labor gap is really, really important. And I was just talking with the legislator this morning about the fact that we need more trades positions. And he's like, well, everybody needs more workers. It's like, it's pretty much universally felt in all the different industries that there's not enough workforce. So I think that, I think engaging with these communities and getting, workforce training is going to be really important, especially if we're going to transform the built environment in the next decade or so.
And we have some really amazing folks that are on the ground doing this work, looking for good people. I know a lot of us regularly engage with our energy efficiency technicians and companies related to the home energy solutions and home energy solutions income eligible folks that are doing the work on the ground. And there luckily is some public money coming down the pipeline. I know that a number of folks on this call also have been active in advocating to make sure that the interests of broader and diverse public are represented in how that money is distributed. But a great thing, coming back to Melissa's points on advocacy in terms of calling your legislators, letting folks know that workforce development and energy efficiency and equitable distribution of energy is important to you is a great place to start. And yeah, let's keep these conversations going. I do want to be mindful of time once again. We have about 3 more minutes left before our 5:30 stop. So I want to take the chance to thank you all again for speaking with us. We will be sharing this video and the slides. Please do feel free to reach out to any of us. Kai and myself as moderators, our emails are on the following slide, or our speakers today. We really hope to share the knowledge and wealth of experience that we have on this panel. So feel free to share the video and slides with your friends and peers as well. And with that, any final, thank you, Kai. Any final comments or questions?
Just wanted to thank you guys again, Joya. Great job.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Same here. Thank you, Joya and Kai. Great job. And it's always a pleasure to be among such great panelists.
Agreed. Thank you so much. All right, well, until next time, everyone, please don't be strangers. Panelists, attendees, and any future attendees watching recordings, please do reach out. It takes a village to achieve a just transition. So let's work together. Thank you
True
all.
indeed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.